They've got, I can't remember if it's the DS or if it's the EL range, but it's the range-finding binoculars that take in, because you can download ballistics into that as well. And it takes into account air pressure, elevation,
Wow.
you know,
Oh, wow.
temperature, things like that. It
Crazy.
It has a weather station in it, I guess. And
Yeah.
so
Dang.
it just monitors all that stuff.
I would love to get it. I mean, probably not till retirement, but long range shooting is just a really cool concept. You know, and dealing with the physics of something that's going that far and moving that fast, and how you create exactly what you're. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty fun. Science for sure, and a great sport. You know, like going out with buddies and being like, who can ding it at 1100? You know, like
A guy shot, I was reading, a guy shot a 222X 1,000-yard target, and the 1,000-yard bullseye, I believe, is 5 inches across. And
wow.
he shot 22 rounds. 20 is is how many you have to shoot for competition.
It's called
But-
the 22X.
Well, no, it's what it is. It's you shoot 200, you shoot at 1,000 yards, and you shoot 20 rounds. But then, if you have a perfect score, you can keep shooting until you miss the center.
Oh.
And he shot 20 rounds, hit a 5-inch circle at 1,000 yards, and then hit it twice more before he missed that circle.
So the
1,000
23rd one was his miss?
Was his miss. And
Wow.
so, but 20.
With what round?
I can't remember
Oh,
what he
okay.
was shooting, but it was
Yeah.
just the idea that you can shoot 1,000 yards. Ready.
Oh, we're ready. We're just gabbing away. Yeah.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Taiwan on Tuesday. Sorry for the difficulties. Our internet at the store has been very wonky the past couple weeks. So hopefully we can get through the whole episode here without any other issues. We got Alan here, and Travis and Chaz from Jacksonville Steelworks came back because they had so much fun last time. So we're switching things up, and we are doing a hunting edition instead of fly tying. Keep things interesting since hunting season is, I guess, already kind of started.
Yeah.
But
Some
really
places.
about to ramp up. And Alan wanted to do a disclaimer that alcohol and firearms do not mix. we are just
But when you
chatting
talk about
tonight.
But we're just talking.
We're just
There's no
talking.
shooting. But I will let you guys kick it off. Feel free to leave any comments or questions on the video, and we will answer them. So awesome! Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thanks.
This is really fun. It's good to be back.
Yes. It's always good to be back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Do a little intro. about
Sure.
who you are.
I'm Alan Brumsted, and I've been in the Valley 30 years. Most of those years as a teacher at Jackson Hole High School, and then retired, and now I'm working here, have been for the last 2 years. I found that it's a lot easier. I used to spend my time trying to convince students to learn chemistry, and I found it's a lot easier to convince my former students to buy guns. I still see them, but in a different context.
Yes.
So, and then the other thing is I've been teaching hunter safety here for 26 years. So that's a big part of.
I probably took my hunter safety from you.
You
then.
may have.
Yeah.
Look at your card, see if my name's on
Yeah.
it. So,
It was
Right.
one of your first years, probably.
started in '95.
Yep. Been 90. Actually, no. It was a while later until I actually started hunting here. So it would have been early 2000s, I guess.
Yeah,
Early mid
might have been me.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Small distance between people in this town.
So
sure.
Chaz and I are good buddies.
Yeah.
And also owners of Jacksonville Steelworks. So we're just to all of you out there that maybe saw us last week or just tuning in. We've got a small little fun distillery here in town, and we're enjoying some of our delicious beverages today with Alan, and just gonna chat some good hunting stuff.
Yeah. How much time do you have?
Yeah, right, yeah,
This could go on and on
Yeah.
for a long time. Yeah, Travi and I got to know each other early 2000s and became instant buds, fishing and hunting quite a bit together. So it's it's appropriate that we're in this show and this podcast, and as well as the other fly tying casts that we did, which has been a lot of fun. So kind of reminiscing a lot about some old stories. I'm sure we'll do a little of that tonight too,
Yeah.
which is fun. But yeah.
All right, so kind of the ideas we had for tonight were to help somebody who's new to hunting figure out what it is they need and what sort of equipment they would have to acquire to get started. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about, if you've been hunting for a while, what are some things that you could upgrade to? What are some of the products we've got here that would interest you?
There's plenty of upgrades here.
Yeah,
we were just
Endless.
talking about them.
Endless.
Yes, there are
got a
lot.
whole rack of upgrades behind me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, one of the questions that I get here at the counter quite a bit is, what do I need? What about licenses in Wyoming? What do I have to do to hunt? And for people who are out of state, it's usually sad because it's like, well, application for elk was back in January, so you're out of luck.
Yeah.
But for those people who've been living here, then we can start to have a conversation about, what it is, what's required in terms of licensing. First thing I ask them is, how long have you been living here?
Mm-hmm.
Because to get a resident license, you have to have resided in the state of Wyoming for one full calendar year before you can even apply for a license. So, if you moved here in August and the application period for antelope is in May, you can't even apply. Even though your season would be open, you can't even apply because you haven't lived here one full year. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing that I ask people. You have to have a hunter safety card. We're reciprocal with all 50 states. So if you have a hunter safety card from another state, you're good to go. You just need to be able to show it to somebody. So if you took hunter safety somewhere else, hopefully you've still got your card. If you don't, maybe the state has it on computer and can get it for you or something. But the other option here, though, is you don't have to do a hunter safety. They kind of, a few years back, came up with the kind of try it before you buy it program, which is the mentor program. That was the initial idea, was to give people a chance to go hunting and with a friend and say, is this something I really want to do? And then find a hunter safety course.
Teaching the hunter safety this weekend at the range.
I am, but it's full and there's a wait list. So that's the regular class. There's also an online way of doing hunter safety. You do a whole course online. You print out the form at the end that proves that you've completed it successfully. And then there's a 4-hour internet completion course. And I've run 4 of those this fall. So I'm done with those, and I'm now hopefully going to finish up my other hunter safety course, and then I'll go hunting. That's the next
There you
thing.
go.
Well deserved.
Most hunter safety courses, there's a lot of them until you get to kind of late August, and then they drop off dramatically because all the instructors are out hunting.
Yeah.
So
Like,
it's
no.
like, I'm not going to run a class now.
Can't do that.
So,
Cut into my hunting time?
yeah.
You kidding me?
Kind of like our staff here at the store.
yeah, right.
The decrease is dramatic.
during the hunting
Sounds pretty
season.
dramatically
Yeah.
similar to the distillery.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, I think it may be a
we would
common
be
problem.
very difficult to find in September.
I hope you've made a lot in August to carry you through.
That's what
September.
that's what we've
Yeah,
been doing,
we're doing
man.
it
That is what
right
we've
now.
been doing.
Yeah. But anyway, there is this mentor program where you can find somebody. So let's say Chaz wants to hunt. He's never hunted before, doesn't have a hunter safety card. Travis has hunted. He's a hunter safety card. He's got a license. He can go in and sign up at the Game and Fish to be Chaz's mentor, and they can go hunting together. And then Chaz can figure out later, is this something I want to do? And and they actually, it used to be you could only
It's
do
really
it
smart.
1 year you could do it, but now they're actually letting people do it for a couple of years if they need to because they can't find a class. So
Classes fill up fast.
they do, and all the sign up is online at the Game and Fish website. You just click on the education button on the homepage menu, and it'll take you to that information.
When do those start? Are they primarily spring summer, or are there some winter versions of it?
Personally, I usually like to try to start them in the spring. This year I went floating down the Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
You know,
you
and so
gotta
that
do
kind of interfered with
Yeah.
things. I was kind of thinking about that, and then
You know,
we did it, and then
Could
it
do
was
like could teach a hunter safety course. Could spend 3 weeks in the ditch.
it was only 2 weeks, though,
Yeah,
but
well,
it was still
you know,
good.
yeah.
So I started a little late, so I wound up running them in July and August, but normally I usually start in the spring.
Summer.
try and get them out, get them out of the way earlier. And then if you're not familiar with it, you can buy a general deer and elk tag over the counter. If you have the residency and stuff, and then but all the other tags, if you want to hunt antelope or moose, or bison or bighorn sheep, all those other tags are by application and by lottery. So, but I mean, there's a lot of hunting for deer and elk in this area.
Oh, yeah, we are gifted with some of the best
Yeah.
public land in the
Yeah,
country, not
Yes.
the world. I mean, got a nice backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, from the deck here, people ask me, and from the deck, you can see where I've shot 3 elk up on Crystal Butte.
Nice.
Yeah.
So behind the refuge. So
Yep.
it's you don't have to go far.
Yeah.
You just have to hike uphill.
Yep.
The other thing you're going to need besides a license is a conservation stamp, but you may already have that with your fishing license. You only have to buy one a year, and so you might already have that. And when you get your license, our kiosk already will say, they have their conservation stamp, so that's valid. And then the other thing that you need around here is the elk special management stamp,
Yes.
which is if you're hunting elk, it's called the feed ground stamp, and it's was $15 or $15.50. I'm not sure.
$17.50.
Oh, it's up to $17.50.
I think so.
And that goes to support the 20-some feed grounds in Western Wyoming. So if you're hunting in northwest Wyoming, you have to have that stamp as well to make it legal.
Yeah, those are in the regs book.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
say, there's
they're-
some reg books right over there. Can you grab one of
Yeah.
those?
It's in the back, and it's like, I know 83, 89s in there, and then there's some 70s and a few 90s.
But you can pick this up
Yeah.
we have a few left here, but you can get them at the Game and Fish. This has a huge amount of information in it. It used to be that you just got this little map that had, the seasons in all the different areas. I love this booklet. It's got so much stuff in it in terms of helpful hints and definitions for things. And, hey, here's an elk. Here's some body parts of an elk. All right. So I just really like that. It's so much better than what they used to have. But you should always definitely pick one of those up to see what's going on.
I handed that to my kids in the back seat. Kept them busy for a while.
Did you give them some
So I'm
crayons
like,
too?
read this.
Give them some crayons and
Yeah,
they can
exactly.
they can figure that out.
Yep.
So, you guys have any other points or questions about the licensing stuff?
I think that's pretty straightforward. Yeah, I mean,
If you
if you're
in
a
doubt,
resident, if you're a
yeah.
resident for over a year, you got to start getting out there because
Yeah.
it's one of the greatest places in the world to hunt. So,
Yeah,
And if you
definitely.
have, I was thinking, if you have any questions, we have such an incredible game and fish crew, and they're so resourceful that it's just better to ask
Yeah,
for sure than to get yourself in
yeah.
a pickle where you don't have what you need.
Yeah. One of the things there's a box in this that I saw the other night, and it says, "We all make mistakes. Own it."
yeah.
And it's like, if you make a mistake, everybody does.
Yeah.
If you're honest with the game warden or whatever,
Yeah.
it's going to go a lot better, I think.
Yeah.
So
No.
anyway, but we've got a great crew here. The only other thing I would say is that the conservation stamp just jumped to $21.50. You can buy a lifetime conservation stamp for $185, which means it only take you 9 years if they don't raise the price again
Yep.
to recoup that. So if you're planning on staying in Wyoming, or if you have kids and you as they get older, you think maybe I should get them something, because a lifetime license or a lifetime conservation stamp is just that. If you move out of state, it's still valid. So if you come back to visit friends or parents or whatever, it's still valid. So lifetime licenses are something to think about.
There's not a lot of things that go down in price these
Yeah.
days, so we'll go ahead and say it's
Yeah.
worth
Probably
it.
a good
I heard this gin was going down. No,
Not yet.
maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay. All
For
right.
you, Alan, yes.
Yeah. Oh,
It'll go down in
okay.
price.
It's going down pretty well. But
Yeah.
in this fine new drink that they've just come up with. So what sort of gear are you going to need to get started? There's some just straight out basics. If we're rifle hunting, you're going to need a rifle, and it's imperative. And really, I get the question a lot. Where do I start? And the answer is really get the best you can afford.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a former student who she's working, she's just out of college, and you know, I said, well, look, we don't carry them, but you could buy this gun for $350. And she's like, well, I could swing $350. But she couldn't swing $800 or something like that. And so, but you want to get the best you can afford. You know, there really is a difference as with anything, you kind of get what you pay for. And so as you move up through the prices, you start to see better quality components and things like that. So you're going to need a rifle. Most of them are going to be bolt action. That's what we've got primarily here. There are some what are called compact rifles. So if you're smaller stature, like this girl was, she had been hunting with a gun that my daughter had used. And so I'd had that. The stock on that was a compact stock, so it's shorter length of pull, easier to hold, so they're not kind of like this when they're shooting. So you have the option of just a regular stock or compact. And then the last thing is when you're kind of considering your gun is what cartridge is it going to be in?
Yeah.
You know, do you want to get a 300 Weatherby Magnum? Well, how do you feel about recoil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Would you weigh 70 pounds?
Yeah, right.
It's going to knock you out?
I have to have a 3378.
Yeah, right.
I have to, and you're like, well,
We've got one
get
if
ready
you
to knock
want
your
it.
teeth out.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so I mean that's the first thing is to think about, okay, what do I want in terms of what can I handle for shooting? But then the other part that's equally as important is what are you going to be hunting, and you've really got to match that cartridge to the game.
Yep.
Because
What's so great about you and your crew is that you wouldn't let anybody walk out of here without really truly fitting them, not just from the comfort of the gun, but also the round that they're going to be shooting. Because you got to practice.
Yeah.
And you don't want to practice with something that's really going to beat you up.
That's
for a
true,
long time.
and you know, there is no substitute for practice.
Yeah.
And right now, ammo is somewhat scarce, and it's expensive.
Yep.
But you know, if this is something you really want to do, and you want to really, you know, have that kind of ethic of treating the animal well, in that you're going to kill it cleanly. You know, and not wound it and things like that. You need to practice. And so, yeah, here in the beginning, it may cost you something, but it's what you need to do. And then there's also some of that's legal requirements. So if you're going to go hunt a bison, you have to have a gun that's at least a 270. If you're going to hunt, you know, elk, it's got to be at least a 243, and now they've changed it in Wyoming, so you can use 22 caliber rounds for hunting deer, antelope, if they have a 60 grain bullet and they're over 2 inches long. So I mean it's kind of a niche market on that, but it's possible. And I guess the last thing that, you know, full disclosure here, I'm on the advisory committee for Sporting Lead Free.
Yes.
And so you know, there's bullets come in two types. You have bullets that are basically a copper coating with a lead core, and then you have other bullets that are essentially all copper. And if you're hunting in the park, if you get a park tag, you have to use non-lead ammunition. Other places, it's just up to the hunter. And for me, the problem is twofold. One, when you shoot an animal with a lead bullet, the lead fragments, and you get little pieces that go out, and those pieces can wind up in your meat.
Yep.
And I have grandkids that eat the elk I shoot, and I don't want them getting any more lead than they have to.
Right.
So, you know, with that way. But then the other side of it is the scavengers. Eagles come down and feed on the carcasses.
Yeah.
It takes, I think it's like just a tiny fleck of lead from a bullet is enough to poison an eagle. And so if you think about it on, you know, both sides, that, you know, I want my family to be healthy, but I also want to treat the wildlife well.
Yeah.
Then, you know,
Copper's the call.
Copper is what you do. And so, you know, when you start thinking about it, and it's, you know, maybe a little more expensive, not much anymore, but you can shoot inexpensive stuff to practice and then shoot your copper right when you go hunting.
Yeah.
So a rifle, you need your rifle, and all of our rifles pretty much require an optic on them, a scope of some sort. Most of them are variable powers. I don't know that we have any fixed power scopes anymore. Everything zooms
Yeah.
from.
There's not many of those around.
You don't see them at all.
Yeah.
But again, you want to choose one that matches the gun that you've got in terms of the ballistics of the bullet. You want to, again, buy the best you can, the best you can afford.
Yes.
You don't want to go super cheap because that's your aiming device. And if it's super cheap and it's not going to work, then that's not going to help you.
No.
And get good rings and mounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely get them.
Huge.
Make sure that, you're having those. Don't try and put that stuff on yourself. Because they actually have torque specs, and so we have this
Got a
little.
funny story about that.
We do. What's your story on that?
Got a new scope and was like, I'll just wrench that down, and I wasn't going crazy with it, but it wasn't much between the difference of what a torque wrench would tell you, which was like, I think it was 14 pounds that was the maximum, and I'm sure I went to like 17 or 19, and of course it warped the tube. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why my bullets were moving around in the target when I did nothing and was getting good squeezes on that round, and it was just like so frustrating. And started doing research and figured it out.
Yeah.
That torque wrench on scope mounts is imperative because
Yeah.
you will ruin a really nice scope real fast.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Yeah, so it's definitely it's inch pounds instead of foot pounds like you'd use on your car, but
Or inch pounds, yeah.
it's definitely want to make sure that the scope is mounted
For sure.
properly, and there's different torques for different parts of the setup. So, and then the other thing is when you get a scope, is crosshairs, right?
Yes.
I mean, you've got everybody has that there's a crosshair in the scope, but what that crosshair is, you have to. It goes everything from just a simple crosshair to things that look like Christmas trees and have numbers out to the sides, and they got stuff up in the corner. They do have lights. They got lighted reticles that have a light on the center point. There's all kinds of stuff out there.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, I'm kind of like, at least, especially to start, simple is better.
Yep.
Simple is better. And then some of those, I mean, there are some relatively simple ones that have little marks coming down the vertical crosshair, and that's designed to give you hold points. So if you have it sighted in 100, you know that, that first mark down, that's 200 yards. The next one is 300 yards. And so you can use that. And then the other thing is some of the scopes come with, you can get a custom turret. Once you've decided what ammo you're going to shoot, you have to stick with it. But you can send it in and they'll create a turret that's just for you. So it'll have yardages marked on it.
Wow.
So if it'll say, you tell them I'm going to zero at 100, then they'll put marks on it out to 2, 3, 4, 500 yards, and you can just range it and then figure out what you want.
Wow.
So there's lots of different options there in the scopes.
Basic stuff. Basic hunter or new hunters would probably want to build up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yes and no. Some of the scopes that come with the ability to have that custom dial system are not that expensive, and so it is something that you could do, and you need a rangefinder. You need a good rangefinder to But the other thing it does, it locks you into that ammo, and if you can't find that ammo, then you're experimenting anyway.
Yeah.
So
We know that now probably better than we have many years.
in a while.
Yeah, a long time.
This 165 grain is not the same as this 165
No,
grain.
it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. People do that all the time at the range. They'll be like, "Well, I'm shooting, these 165s, and I got these at the store, but they're not doing the same. They're the same weight." It's like, it's not the same ammo.
Yeah.
Totally different.
I switched ammo 2 years ago, and I was shooting some of my old ammo last year, and I was at 200 yards. I was off by almost a foot. It was crazy the difference.
Yeah.
Crazy the difference. It was like down and left, and the other one was like at the top of the paper, like up here. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and, you know, if you can, guns digest ammo differently. And so you have to kind of, you know, check around and see if you can find if you have the ability to find some different ammo, try some different ammos out, see which one the gun likes best.
Yeah.
But they, you know, as you were saying, they're different.
Yeah.
So, but that's the basic that you're going to need. Is you're going to need a rifle and a scope.
And you're going to have those for a long time. And maybe if the price point is on the, you know, upper levels of what you're comfortable spending, get something that
Spend
you're
it.
ready to have, you know, for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's an old adage, I think it probably came out of the Wild West, which is beware the man with only one gun, because it's all he shoots, and
Yep.
it's all he knows.
Yeah.
And I've got a really great friend who bought, when he was in high school, bought himself a Remington Model 700 BDL and 7mm mag because he knew he was going to school in Montana.
Yeah.
And that was 40, 50 years ago probably.
Nice.
It's the only hunting rifle he
Yeah.
has.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
but it's worked for him for years. And so yeah, I mean, you may just buy one, and so you know, get one that you like and that works for you.
By nice, not twice.
Yeah.
There
Exactly.
you
That's
go.
great.
Yeah, yep, definitely.
Very true.
Yeah.
Inevitably, those get
Yeah, right.
passed on.
Yeah,
or by,
yeah,
or by
yeah,
nice
I mean,
twice, 3 times, 4
yeah,
times,
right.
5 times.
That's true too.
Yeah.
How many Swarovskis do you have?
Yeah.
How many pairs of ski? How many fly rods?
Yeah.
Should we ask
Oh,
Chaz how
it's
many
gotta
fly
be-
rods
let's
are
not
in his
even
garage, or
start there.
Howard?
A lot.
Or Howard, you know, how many fly rods do you have?
Yeah. Too
So,
many.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
But you get to pass them on to generations too.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. And you hear about the great old guns and the pre-64 Remingtons that get handed to buddies, and you're just like, neat stuff. But they last for a very, very long time.
Yeah, if you take care of them, they're nearly infinite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Tell
have
us a little bit about your collection.
mine.
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
Tell us about both of your guns.
Yeah, both of my guns. Well, I had to inventory my guns one day. I just decided that I would inventory my guns, and there were, at the time, 34 guns in my gun cabinet.
Oh wow.
And but then I had to say, when my wife said 34 guns, I said, but they're not all mine. Okay, you know, like there's these 5 that belong to the Game and Fish, but I keep them because I'm the one who teaches hunter safety mostly, and so they're in my gun safe. And there's your brother's handguns. I've got 2 of his handguns. He lives in the Hamptons on Long Island. Is he going to have a handgun in the Hamptons on Long Island? No. So where is it? It's in my gun safe, you know. And so we kind of went through that.
So you were able to whittle it down to a
I
more
was, yeah, it
acceptable
was.
number.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Like 24,
yeah.
since working here, I've
right.
kind of,
Right now,
Yeah.
I've looked it up a little bit. So,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, so it's, there's quite a few there. But, you know, prior to, prior to when I started teaching hunter safety, and one of the things they give you if you teach a certain amount of courses, they have little rewards. And when you get to 1,000 points, they would buy you a gun. And prior to my getting that gun, everything that I owned was made before 1950.
Oh wow.
And so
That's
I just
cool.
had I liked old guns and wooden guns and stuff. But I have, you know, we'll touch on it later, but I have a whole variety of things, and I hand load. So
cool.
I hand load for probably a dozen, maybe 10 different rounds.
Oh wow.
And so, you know, it's my hobby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
It's a great hobby.
My wife can't find me. She looks in the garage, and there I am at the
There you
bench,
are.
and says,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, there you are."
There
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so
Howard ties flies, you tie
yeah,
bullets.
that's
Yeah.
exactly it. That's exactly it. But you know, and I've got, you know, I have guns. If I'm going out on the refuge hunting, then I take my 300 H&H, which is my basically like a 300 Win Mag. It's my long range gun.
Yeah.
If I'm hunting in the woods, I might take a 308 or a 300 Savage because I know I'm only going to be shooting 100 yards. So it's just there's way more. I have way more guns in my gun safe than I have animals to shoot at.
Yeah.
So I have to just keep varying it as I go through the season. But I'm definitely not that guy with one gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Melissa Snyder asked,
Yeah, that's my daughter.
There you go.
can you talk a little bit
Hi,
about
Melissa.
keeping firearms safe and secure in your home?
Yes,
Oh,
I
that's
can.
good. Good
Kids
idea.
particularly.
Very good.
Yep, good question. Good question. I am all in favor of gun safes. And we have, if you've just got a handgun, like we've had a lot of people come in and they buy handguns for protection. We have some small safes that are just kind of like, a bedside safe. And they have either an RFD reader or a fingerprint reader. So you're keeping that gun safe, but you have instant access to it if you need it, if you're thinking about a home defense thing. Otherwise, if you need a full-size safe, I'll throw it out here to Big R. One of their side areas, one of the little side things they've got there is filled with gun safes. And I cannot recommend enough getting a safe.
There's a lot of very reasonably priced
Yeah.
ones too. It's not that you got to spend $2-3 grand
No,
on a safe.
no.
There's plenty of them in the
And
$300
really,
to $600
Yeah,
range.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that relatively small one that holds, I think it's like a 12 gun,
Yeah.
12 rifle capacity was. I think I picked that up for $300 or $400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
that's
fine.
pretty cheap insurance.
Yeah. Very.
So
you
very
know?
cheap
Yeah.
insurance that, and it's just, there's just no reason to have a gun out, and lying around somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just not something that should happen.
Do a lot of the barrel snakes as well with a locking piece on
Yeah.
those to, double secure
Yeah.
the gun so that if it is.
Every gun that we sell, every gun that comes from a manufacturer comes with a gun lock.
Yep.
Every single one. So even if you don't have the safe and you're keeping it in a file drawer, you can put the gun lock on it and make it unusable for anyone
Yeah.
who doesn't have that key or that
Yep.
combination.
Yeah.
So,
Be safe.
yes, definitely.
Great question.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so any other points or comments on rifles and scopes that you guys want to?
I don't think so. I think we thoroughly covered that, and yeah, if anybody has any questions, they can come see you.
Come, yeah, well, come see me or come see
Yeah.
anybody behind the counter here.
Yeah.
We can all help you out.
Yeah.
I'm not the expert here, all right,
Yeah.
but I'm just one of a group that's behind the counter. So we were talking about what you need to get started hunting, and obviously a rifle with a scope on it is one of the things you're going to need. But there's other things, binoculars, optics. A scope is not an observing device.
No.
Right? It's an aiming device. So if you're using it to scan the countryside and you see a person, well, you're pointing your gun at that person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to go with getting some binoculars, and we have a huge range of binoculars here. From, I would say these
Break them out.
those Diamondbacks
Yeah.
right there. That's like the world's best. All right, this is a super pair of binoculars for $230. The glass on them. Everybody who looks through them, we're fortunate to have the deck. So if you come out here and we can try out binoculars on the deck, and I've used enough Rangefinders so I can tell you, oh, it's 300 yards to there, and oh yeah, that sign's 92 yards away, and that hillside's a half mile, and so I know the distances, so you can kind of get an idea. But if as an introductory pair, the 10x42 Diamondbacks, great pair of binoculars that if you're just getting started out, would be perfect. They're lightweight. They're not as bulky as others. The main thing is, as hunters, we're really, you're there early morning before the sunrise, and you might be hanging out at dusk right after sunset. And if you stand on the deck in the middle of the day, you can't tell the difference because everything is fully bright.
Yeah. It
But
just
if
gathers so much
yeah,
light. In that
and
big
it's
glass.
just overwhelming your eyes at that point.
Yep.
But where the glass starts to really pay off is when you get into those low light conditions.
Yes.
And now, that's where I like the Diamondbacks, because even in the low light, for an introductory pair of glass, they're really good.
Yeah.
And they do gather the light well. So
I'm a fan of 10s and even like 8.5s if you're hunting a lot of timber and that sort of stuff. I mean, going into 12s and bigger binoculars, it's harder to gain that perspective and certainly find that animal or hold on an animal, especially when you're looking, a good ways of reaching out to sort of the outer limits of that. The larger powers, I tend to find that there's a lot of shake in them as well, and that it's hard to sort of, hold on an animal or to really keep it steady at those bigger powers. So sometimes lower power I find to be a little bit easier to really hold and concentrate on what the animal looks like or how many points it has. Of course, that's important too, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, well,
That's a great-
and that's
great set.
that's actually not only are the binoculars magnifying the image, so a 10 power object will appear 10 times larger than it would with the naked eye. So it's magnifying the image, but it also magnifies any movement you have. So and I talk with people about this all the time, if they're having difficulty, like, oh, I shake, well, let's go to a lower power. Because as you reduce the magnification, you reduce the amount that it picks up that shake. And so, but the other thing is that as you increase the magnification, you're decreasing your light gathering ability, so they're going to be darker.
Yeah.
So that's why usually when you look at the 12s, they're not in 42, they're in 50,
Yeah.
because they need to have more light coming in to help with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, and for a long time, I ran with 8 powers because I wanted the additional light gathering ability early and late that you get with an 8 power. But now the glass has gotten so much better.
Yeah.
You can do it with a 10, or if you want to jump to Swarovskis to their top of the line NLs, you can do it with a 12 power. So.
Well, you said you were going to give Travis and I a pair of these.
Oh, was I? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to talk to. I was going to say you're going to have to trade quite a few bottles for those. That's one of the upgrades we're going to be chatting about in a little while.
So
That's probably not your
We got another
introduction.
question. What
Sure.
does the power of the binos mean, just for the
Okay.
for the newbies like
All right.
me? A
So
brief overview.
there's 2 numbers on your binoculars. The first one will usually be 8, 10, or 12. That's the magnification. That's the number of times that larger that the object will appear than it does with your naked eye. So if you're looking down the street at the stop sign, when you look through these binoculars, it's going to appear 10 times larger. The second number is the diameter of the objective lens in millimeters. So this one happens to be a 10 by 42. That's pretty standard. That means that this is a 42 millimeter lens on this end. Common lens diameters are like 32, 42, 50, and 56. And the issue with the 32s is that if you are using them in bright daylight, they're fine. But as you go into those evening hours, and people are like, oh, but they're so nice and light, and they're so tiny, and that's right, they are. But you're going to lose that definition as soon as the sun goes down, or you're up in the park and the sun goes behind the mountains, and you're trying to watch a bull elk that's bugling or whatever, and you're like, I can't really make it out very well. And that's where higher quality, a little bit larger objective lenses will help.
It's gathering light from
Right.
a much larger diameter.
Yeah.
It's really
And like I said, normally you don't see 12 power binoculars with a 42 millimeter objective. You'll see them with a 50 millimeter. And they make 10s with 50 millimeter objective lenses. Again, if you want something brighter, but you're sacrificing weight because they're going to be heavier, bigger pieces of glass.
I feel like you're walking around with those binoculars from like aircraft carriers.
Oh yeah, yeah, the giant ones. Well, the other nice thing about Vortex now is everything from the crossfires up comes with the chest pack.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so you don't have to buy that as an accessory unless you want one of the ones that's got more pockets in it to carry other things. But they all come with that, so you don't have the binoculars hanging on your neck, and then the worst part of that is they hang around your neck, and as you start to walk, they pick up your cadence of your walk, and they start swinging, and you're like grabbing them and stuff. So
And those straps are awesome because they actually create another counterpoint. So when you go to stabilize them, it's just really nice, and then let them go, and then sitting right on your
Yeah.
chest. And
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a nice thing about Vortex. And then in case you don't know, the Vortex warranties everything. You don't have to register your binocular or anything. The only thing they don't warranty is loss or theft. So I had a customer in here a few weeks ago who actually lived next to the Vortex headquarters. And they said it's so fun to walk in there, and they said there's this wall of stuff that's been returned to them.
Oh, that's just
Like a rifle
just
scope that's been
destroyed.
stepped on by a horse,
Oh.
binoculars that were chewed up by a dog or burned up in a fire, all these things, and they warranty it.
That's cool. They just want
for
people to have
they
the
just want
product.
people to have it, and so it's a really great setup that way too. I think I make a lot of sales to people with kids.
Nice.
For that warranty,
Yeah.
because even today it's like, well,
Yep.
I see you've got 3 reasons here that Vortex would be a really good choice for you. I said if they get out and they hit the ground, then
Yep.
call Vortex and do the warranty on them. So so anyway, binoculars are great.
These are $229.
$229.
That's
Yeah,
Great price.
Great price.
it's
Yeah.
not
Good pair of
outrageous. And the thing is that you're not just going to be using them during hunting
Yeah.
season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like we don't have things to look at with binoculars.
Just a few birds.
Yeah, birds and bears and
Great grays and things you
Yeah,
might
great
wanna look
grays.
at.
Yeah, you might want to look at things like
Totally.
that. So you're going to be using them year round. As a starting binocular, those are great. A rangefinder. I didn't bring any rangefinders over, but a rangefinder basically is a laser, shoots out a beam, bounces off an object, and comes back. There's different qualities of them. They'll range different distances. First thing you got to know is if it says it's an 1800, which most of the numbers on them refer to yards. So it's an 1800, which means it's going to range 1800 yards. That's if you had a bright silver semi truck 1800 yards away,
Right.
sideways to you, and you had that sitting on a tripod,
Right.
so you're not wiggling, and you push the button, it would range it.
Yeah.
But then they all disclaim. There's a disclaimer in all of them.
Or
When
you
you
had a
start
button
reading,
that would put the button.
yeah, right. Yeah. But if you start reading the disclaimers, they're like, oh, but on non-reflective targets like a deer, it's 800 yards or something. But really, the price of rangefinders anywhere from around $200 to $600. It really does make a difference.
You get what you pay for.
Yeah,
you really do.
I bought some crappy rangefinders, thinking they were great.
Yeah.
I'm hearing good reviews, and of course, you go to Amazon or whatever, and you read all the reviews on something before you come and purchase it at High Country. But like you read all that stuff, and it's true because I was actually in here looking at game cams and things like that. There's so many misleading things, and it's better to just come talk to people
Talk to
who
the
play
source.
with them all
Yeah.
the time and know the value and can truly say like this is $30 more, but this is why you're going to have it longer and it's going to be more accurate, or it's going to be playing out better for you long term than
Yeah,
some of the other stuff, and
and it's just
won't burn up your batteries.
it's like other optics. As you
Yeah.
as you step up through even just the Vortex line, you go from Crossfire to Diamondback to Viper to Razor. Every step up, they're improving the glass, they're improving the coatings, and you really are getting sharper image, more of the field of view is in focus. It's the same thing with rangefinders. The glass in rangefinders differs, and some of the more expensive rangefinders are like a 7-power monocular.
Yeah.
They are so clear that you can actually use them, for looking around at stuff before you actually range it. But I think for starting hunters, rangefinders are critical because when you go practice, you need to figure out, you go to Jackson Hole Gun Club, they have targets and steel plates out to 600 yards. And I will always see people down there, gonging the plates from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 5. They going back and forth, and they're like, man, this is great. And you look, and there's on this cement bench with sandbags, and it's like, well, are you going to carry that bench into the woods for me? That's kind of where you're at, and so it's like you have to learn.
Shoot in hunting situations.
Yeah, well, shoot in hunting positions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Use cross sticks. We have cross sticks here that you can buy that collapse and fold up. They're not very big,
and super helpful.
and
by the
super.
way.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I carry them all the time. And but the thing is that you need to figure out what's your comfortable distance from shooting positions, and then that rangefinder will allow you to say, oh, that I feel comfortable the 300 yards, being that elk is at 250, okay, it's within my range. I can, try and get this shot. And so I think it's super important to, that rangefinder is really, because it's a lost art, estimating range.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
Lewis and Clark went across, did the, across the country, right? And they did all of their measurement by dead reckoning, which is you look ahead and you say, okay, that rock's 200 yards, and you write it down. And at the end of the day, you add it all up. And in that entire journey to the West Coast and back, they were only off by 40 miles.
Oh,
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really
and
cool.
we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We don't
Wow.
we don't estimate
Yeah.
distances anymore. And so so that's range
cool.
instead
We
we're
can
gonna
talk
rely on technology.
for sure.
Yeah.
We can talk a lot about that in bow hunting and when we go out and practice and be like, you just walk out to a certain distance and you're like, all right, how far are we?
Yeah.
And it's only 25 or 30
Yeah.
or 35 yards, and
Yeah,
you're
we're
not
not talking,
that far away.
800
You're
yards,
still
but-
like 21, and you're
Well,
like, wrong.
Yeah,
27.
Because
You're
it's like,
that's a big
well, are we
difference.
in the woods or are we in a field? Because
Yeah.
your perception
yeah.
of depth is incredibly different when
Oh, for sure.
depending on the terrain. So, yeah, rangefinders are key.
Yeah.
They're both advanced hunters as well as no matter who you are, unless of
Yeah.
course you're Lewis and Clark. Apparently,
You would know exactly how far it was.
Your musket
Yeah,
will hit
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yep. So, besides our rifle and scope, we got binoculars, we got a rangefinder. Then, if you are fortunate enough to get something, you need to be able to deal with it.
Yes.
All right, because
Then
you
the
got-
work begins.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the hard
Yeah.
part of hunting.
and it's
Yeah.
partly, it's we're out there because we're thinking, okay, we're going to get some healthy meat. We're going to, get this free range elk that's going to taste great. But there's also a Wyoming law there, which states that when you shoot a big game animal, which is deer, elk, moose, antelope, sheep, and goats, that you are required to take the edible portion. And so you can't just go out and shoot a giant elk and take the head and go home. That doesn't work. And so, besides just being a waste of a lot of good meat, it's actually illegal to just shoot for the
Sport.
the
Touching
horns
off
or
on
something.
ethics.
Yeah.
Responsibility as a hunter. Yeah.
So
And it's really tasty and
Yeah.
silly to not take it home.
yeah, exactly.
Quick question. What's a good pair of cross sticks bipod for antelope hunting?
We have some bog cross sticks down here that have they're collapsible, so they actually the legs clip up. So if you're say antelope hunting, the issue I have with antelope hunting is sometimes you're going to be almost lying down because there's so little cover, or you might just be sitting. But other times there's this tall sagebrush and you need to get above it. And so that's where I like the adjustable bipods, because they clip up and so you can get stable at one level, and if you need to be up higher, you flip more of the leg down and now you're stable at a higher level. But
From bog.
all right. So but yeah, if you but practice, because I think people think that shooting off of a bipod, it's going to be like shooting off the bench, and it's not. You got your heart, and there's only two legs down, and you're moving around, and so it takes practice.
Bipod moving forward, leaning forward, or coming back on a bipod, very different.
Yeah, and you
And-
want
and you drop a lot.
Yeah.
In that range.
and if you put the legs a little bit forward, then your body becomes the third leg of that stool, and you'll be more stable than if you have those legs either straight up or pointed back at you.
Right.
So okay. So you're going to need to take care of this. So it's a couple different ways of dealing with this animal. You can either gut it, or you can do what's called quick quarter or gutless method. Go on YouTube; you'll find all the stuff on that if you want to. Hunting. Actually, the Wyoming Game and Fish has they call it quick quarter. I'm not sure if it's on their website or not. You're going to need a knife. Right? And so you could go with either a permanent blade knife, like one of our Benchmades or a Buck or something like that, or the Outdoor Edge has permanent blades, but then the Outdoor Edge also has the replaceable blades. And I just started using those last year, the replaceable blades. I found it to be wonderful.
I just started last year as well.
And
It's
you know,
pretty
and
awesome.
the
But I still like having the fixed blade too. I carry
always
both.
I do
you know?
too.
Yeah.
You know, I always I used to carry like 3 blades because if one got dull, I didn't want to have to sharpen. I could just switch. And now with the replaceable blades, you can just put another blade in. So, but yeah, they're pretty nice. You know, some kind of a saw is good if you, especially if you're dealing with elk. You got to cut through the pelvis. You want to cut through the breastbone and stuff. Quartering, things like that. Some rope is always good if you want to tie off to the side, so you can hold those.
Especially if you're by yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I did hear a story from somebody about a woman who had done this and was hunting alone and had tied it off, and then she just woke up and was like,
Oh, one of the things.
It did. One of
snapped
the
and
ropes snapped, and she got hit in the head with an elk hoof, and it knocked her cold.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and then she woke up out of that. So,
wow.
it's So be sure you tie it well.
Elk was getting her back.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
last
yeah,
little. No, thank you.
And then one thing that I use, and you know, I get harassed for it sometimes, is I bring like latex gloves or you know, cleaning gloves or whatever, and it's not so much because I don't want to get blood on my hands as much as it is I don't want, if it's hot and I'm antelope hunting and now you got blood all over your hands and you got a long ways to go to get back to your vehicle, and do you want to drink the water you brought with you, or do you want to waste it on your hands cleaning your hands up?
Yeah.
And then in the wintertime shooting an elk, and then it's like, do I want to really stick my hands in the snow and use the snow to get the blood off? So I use gloves. I just
They don't
find
weigh anything.
They weigh
you know?
nothing, and you know, and there's also a disease issue there. I don't, you know, I'm not really using it that much for that. It's really. It also makes the Snickers bar taste better when you're done.
It does.
You know?
With that, with the fatty stuff on your hands, and you're like trying to pick it all out. It sticks pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It dries in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last thing, of course, are game bags. We have a variety of different sizes and styles of game bags over here. But you need to protect that meat. You don't want it to get dirt on it. That's one of the main ways of introducing
Yet
bacteria.
still allowing it to breathe, so it doesn't.
So you don't want to put it in like in garbage bags, plastic bags, anything. You want something breathable, so the moisture can evaporate out of it, help cool it, things like that.
Well, I got another question, and this
Okay.
may lead to your topic on protection, but Pete asks, once you field dress the elk, how long does it take for the grizzly to come find you?
Yes.
Depends where you're hunting,
Yep.
and yeah, it depends where you're hunting. But yeah, you should always, you know, you should have your bear spray, and you should be thinking about that. You should have it available. It should not, you know, if you say have it on the belt of your pack, and now you're taking your pack off to clean your animal, you want to make sure that you don't leave it on your pack 10 yards away, that it's on your body, things like that. It's
Getting the meat away from the carcass is always moving it down a couple hundred yards and having that separated. The carcass is going to smell a little bit more than your meat.
They will
sure.
always go for the gut pile first, and they will always go for the carcass first, and so they know that that's where most of the energy is and most of the fat is.
Yeah.
And so they will hit that gut pile first, or the carcass where the innards are. And you definitely, if you're going to be, you know, bringing this to our next thing about packing out, if you're not going to be carrying an elk out completely in one trip by yourself.
Unless you got a really
Yep.
little one.
I've actually brought out half an elk at
Yeah.
a time with a little spike
Yep.
I shot once.
Yeah.
Yep.
But normally, unless you've got horses. Now, if you have
Right.
horses,
then you're pretty
but
good.
I'm
Shot,
not.
great.
I don't have horses, so I'm on foot. And so you need to think about that. How far back are you? What's the weather like? Am I going to be able to get this out before it spoils? Because if you shoot it and it spoils, that's wanton waste of meat, and you could be cited for it.
Yeah.
So, if it's really hot, you need to think, do I really want to pull the trigger on this elk if I'm 4 miles back from my vehicle? Am I going to be able to, get it cooled off or whatever? So,
Unless you're a hunting party of 5
yeah,
together,
right.
Yep.
you got a lot of trips.
Right.
And that's a
And-
lot of miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, Travis always gets an elk and then calls Chaz and says, hey, you want some elk meat?
Yep. Yep.
You got to help me carry it out, though.
You always have your numbers. You got your list of guys. Yeah, but it's dangerous, right? You can only invite the guys that know where you hunt, because you can't invite the other guys because you don't want to show them your hunting spot.
Right.
It's like, God, he said he'd help me, but I don't want him hunting here next year.
That's so true.
I don't have that problem. I hunt so close. I'm a short range hunter. And I don't have too many secret spots. I usually see people when I'm hunting and stuff, and so I have no qualms in pretty much calling anybody to come help.
Yeah.
So go to the fish hatchery and
Yeah.
take a hard ride.
Yeah,
Be out there.
exactly.
Yes.
But
I've
yeah,
heard a lot of convincing stories, actually. I've never experienced it, but rifles going off and bears actually recognizing that sound and moving towards it. And I don't know if it's true. I've just heard some stories
in the
things
Teton Wilderness, up in heavy bear country, that's anecdotal that the outfitters will tell you that when you shoot a bear, shoot an elk.
Yeah.
When you shoot an elk, you need to be thinking about bears immediately.
Yeah.
In fact, I was talking to one guy
Yeah.
who guides back up out of Brooks Lake area, and he was saying that they won't shoot after 4 o'clock
No?
Oh,
because they don't want to
dark.
have
Don't wanna be
to
out there
deal
when
with
it's
an
dark.
animal in the dark, and
Yeah.
even though they have horses and stuff, they just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, thinking about that is
it's a scary thought being in the pitch black. What was that?
yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Just me.
Another
Yeah.
quick question from Scott. So would you pack your quarters away from the carcass before packing out individual quarters?
Yes.
Yes.
I would move everything out away from the gut pile, and then normally what I do is I carry a small, or I carry one game bag that will hold the back straps and the tenderloins, and I will put all of those in one bag, and that will be in my pack, and then I'll move the quarters away from the carcass, and then I walk down to my car and drop the meat at the car, and there I have a real pack, which is just a frame for hauling quarters, and so that's what I use. Then I'll come back up with that to
carry
make
the heavy loads.
Yeah, carry the heavy loads.
How far would you move it away?
At least as far as I felt comfortable, like 100 yards. If you find something, like a
Preferably in the direction of your vehicle.
yeah, of your vehicle, right? You don't want to be taking it uphill when your car's downhill or whatever. But
Just walk right past that carcass again. 11 o'clock at night. You're like, oh, hope there's nothing on it.
Yeah. So so definitely move it away a significant distance. The other thing is, if you can, grizzly recommendations are 10 feet up and 4 feet out from the side of a tree. You're never going to do that, unless you've got 3 buddies who are acrobats and can stand on their shoulders and tie something, a branch across between trees.
And a pulley system or
And
something.
and you have something else. So, but basically, when I think about the last time that I had to pack an elk like that, I was in an area that had burned, and I found a blowdown that was hanging up, so it was off the ground, and so I just wound up tying them. Now it was still within easy. I mean, I could reach them, but it was up off the ground, so they would cool, and it wasn't just lying on the ground, also getting dirty and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I just, if you can just even tying them to branches of a tree, just to kind of get them up off the ground.
And something with a visual, and
Yeah.
as we're making a lot of light of this, but it's something with a visible area around it, right? So you don't want to come into some pocket where you can't see it until you're on top of the meat, because then if somebody else is there, then you're on top of that furry critter too. So it's good to have shade
Yeah.
for sure, and then not be in tight.
And the other
corners.
thing is, as you're walking out, take a look at what it looks like in that area before you leave, so that you'll know when you come back, gee, there's a
look
giant
different?
pile of duff over there.
Yeah.
What's under that?
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, so you want to definitely pay attention to bears in this area. I mean, it's what we have, and it's, you know, they're out there, but, it's sometimes kind of nice not being the top of the food chain, I guess. Just to think about it.
Makes it a little bit more of an
It-
adventure
it
sometimes.
does. It does.
And they're hungry and they're opportunistic, so they're looking for something.
And it kind of actually, brings us to what I call emergency gear, which, the first thing is bear spray. And, we here at the counter, a lot of people come in to buy bear guns. Yep, there we go. It has an expiration date, so please check your bear spray, make sure it's not expired. And it's not the bear spray that goes bad. There's a little rubber O-ring between the aluminum canister and the plastic top.
Yep.
And that rubber O-ring starts to deteriorate the way that stuff does, and the propellant leaks out. So after 3 years, there's a chance that that's going to start happening, and you're going to go push the tab, and nothing's going to happen.
Do
That
not
would be-
leave them in your hot car.
Yeah.
You have
I don't
experience
know
with
if
that?
it's- Oh yeah, it's a friend that it was actually Tim and Julie's roommate
Oh, no way.
had left it on his front seat of his
Oh, man.
2-year-old brand new truck, and it totaled the truck.
Oh,
It
man.
exploded or it leaked or did whatever, and it's
Doesn't
all
take-
inside the
doesn't
air
take
conditioning
much.
unit,
Oh.
and you can't get it out. You turn on your air conditioner and you just start sneezing.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he tried to get it fixed, but don't leave it in your
Yeah,
hot
no, I've heard of them actually jetting through the windshield of a vehicle.
Oh, my gosh.
Shooting right through
So,
it?
yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's definitely not something to leave in the heat.
Nope.
Keep it cool. But besides your bear spray, I was at a workshop one time for hunter safety, and there was a survival expert there, and he said the two most dangerous words for those of us who recreate in the outdoors are "I'm just," because if you say "I'm just," then you're not prepared. You're not going to have the stuff with you need. If something happens, you could be totally out of luck. And so, as a minimum, you should always be carrying something for starting a fire. And we've got like metal matches and things like that, and you can find lots of different stuff for fire starting. You should carry something to signal, a whistle, because you get tired yelling help, but if you can keep exhaling into that whistle for a long time. And the third is some sort of shelter, and that could just be a small tarp. Like I have like a little 7x7, 7x7 tarp that I carry, and I have rope already because I've got that for my cleaning stuff. And so if I needed to make a small shelter, I could.
Yeah.
A headlamp. I actually always bring 2 headlamps
Me too.
because I have now had 2 headlamps that I've owned. I've turned them on and they've worked, and then I turn them off, and then the next time I turn them on, they come on for a split second and then they die. And it's like,
Yeah.
now what do I do? And so I always carry a spare headlamp and extra batteries. And then, you could round that out with a first aid kit or something. Just to, we have some of those over here that are pre-made. Just a little something, you cut yourself when you're gutting an animal or something like that. That kind of stuff happens.
A 3-mile blister is very painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to have something to give you buffer
Yeah.
on even that alone.
Even if
Yeah.
it's just duct tape, because duct tape is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
May not feel like it when you take it off, but it
But
feels good when you
it
put it
fixes the glitch to get you out,
But with the other thing I always carry is a writing utensil, like a pencil, so that it doesn't run out of ink or
Yeah.
freeze. But take your duct tape and wrap it around your pencil,
Yeah.
Oh, there you
so
go.
that you don't have like duct tape roll or whatever, and that's actually now your new duct tape roll
Yeah.
and a nice grip for your pencil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen people do the same thing with duct tape around a water bottle.
Yeah.
Just kind of the same sort of idea. You don't have to carry the whole roll.
Right?
Yeah.
Gets heavy that way.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
A bigger problem if you need a whole roll of duct tape and wood.
Yeah.
That's true. You
Yeah.
could make a shelter.
Yeah, that's
Or
true.
a wallet.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
it's
wallet.
like- it's
Yeah,
all
just
kind
wallet.
of-
Because
you
you get bored sitting there waiting for the elk. It's just, yeah.
Start making duct tape crafts.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people come in. Where can you hunt elk around here?
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, we are so lucky, aren't we?
So lucky. So lucky. Like, unbelievable.
That you
Yeah.
know we have this much public land, and there's so many places that you can go. A couple of the other places that you can hunt, though, besides just on the national forest, Grand Teton National Park it's the only national park that has hunting in it. It's you actually become a deputy park ranger for the purposes of the elk reduction program when you get that tag, because we are part of an international agreement that does not allow people to carry guns or hunt in parks unless you're a deputy ranger.
Right.
Then you can. And so, but if you do hunt in the park, be aware that it's an application. So it's back during the application period, runs through May. And then, but the other thing is that they require non-lead ammo and they require a hunter safety card. No mentor program up there. You have to have the card. And then our other option that's pretty unique here is the elk refuge. You know, that's you have the opportunity of hunting either on the south end with a short range weapon like a shotgun or a muzzle loader or archery, and then on the north end just with a standard rifle. And for that, there's if you go online to the Game and Fish, the drawings are through the Game and Fish, and there's weekly drawings that you apply for on Sunday, and then there's hunt periods that you can get after that. But that's all explained in that portion. So
You can hunt pretty much everywhere but private land around here. Yeah.
and even
that,
even
you
that,
can if you have, have access.
I was going to say, even that in Area 78, the Spring Gulch area, there's some ranchers up there. If you're polite, they're willing to let you come in and get those elk off their property.
So they don't eat all their hay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pesky
So,
little elk. They
Yeah.
taste so good.
They
too.
do taste good.
so, but so there's, it's kind of long-winded, but that's what you need to get started. A rifle with a scope. We said you're going to need a rifle with a scope. You'll need ammunition. You want your binoculars, a rangefinder, stuff to take care of that animal once you get it, and a way to pack it out. And then, of course, your emergency gear. I actually, the thing about the emergency gear is I have a stuff sack that has all my emergency gear in it. And it doesn't matter whether I'm going up on the lake ice fishing or if I'm going on a hike, I'm just going out hiking for a day, or I'm going hunting. That stuff sack goes with me wherever I happen to go when I'm going out. And it's super easy, and you're always prepared.
Yeah.
So, now,
I was just
what's
real
your-
quick, because I was
Yeah.
actually thinking about this, and we had talked a little bit earlier about it. There's a lot of questions about bear spray versus guns, and this is more from a safety standpoint, and you're going to talk a lot about this. But if you're looking for a really good YouTube on that, Meateater does one on gun versus bear spray, and it is pretty convincing. It doesn't say which one is the preferred. It just highlights the amount of skill that you have to have, certainly with a gun, and that versus what you can do with bear spray, and being smart about utilizing those both wisely.
and we sell both up here.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people who come in looking for a bear protection handgun, and we have people who come up daily looking for bear spray. But personally, I don't carry a gun for bear protection, and that has to do with the fact that while I have some handguns, I don't shoot them a lot. And I'm not proficient with them. And if you are a person who practices all the time and you feel super comfortable with your handgun as a defense, I would say great plan B. Plan A needs to be that pepper spray, because the part of the issue is people would like to delist the grizzly bears and get them back into being a trophy game animal in Wyoming where we could have a season on them and things like that. But if we keep killing grizzly bears, out, and I don't know the numbers anymore. It used to be that, after management kills where, they have to take a bear out because it's a problem, bears killed during the hunting seasons was like the second cause of mortality.
Yeah.
And you're never going to remove an animal from the protected list if we keep killing them that way. And so if you can use the non-lethal bear
Yes.
spray and use that first, and if you feel comfortable carrying a gun, carry a gun. I have no problem with that. But use the bear spray first. See, hopefully that'll work for you.
And practice a lot with that second.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of practice. It's
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of rounds and timing and working on making sure you're placing 4 or 5 rounds in X amount of seconds at 25 yards, or
Yeah.
it's hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard, even for people that shoot a lot.
And
So-
and how do you do that when you're being charged by something that if you don't succeed is probably going to hurt
Might
you
be.
pretty
Yeah.
badly.
It's not paper.
Yeah,
Or a blinker target.
And so
Gonna end your
that's
hunting-
that's
at the
the
very
as-
least going to end your hunting
yeah,
season.
Yeah, exactly. That's the aspect of
Yeah.
it that you just can't
Yeah.
figure out how to practice.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to get that fear in there.
Yeah.
But like I said, I have personally I don't, but that's because I don't shoot handguns. And other people do, and that's what they carry. Great, but I still think you should be carrying bear spray first. We want to try that non-lethal stuff first.
All right, well, maybe one last thing to end the evening. What's your favorite recipes, your favorite way to cook your elk? What's the reward after you get your meat back from the processor?
There's hardly anything better than just an elk steak with salt and pepper and olive oil.
Yes.
Fried in the cast iron pan. That's about as good as you can get.
Yeah. The burger, lasagna, ravioli.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can make
like all those things are
go
so
all day about that. That's
really good.
I mean, one of the main. You hunt because you love being outdoors, but
Yeah.
you also really hunt because you get to eat for 12 months.
Yeah.
on
And
that
Mike
stuff,
Mallon, who works for we work most of the day, but there's a good percentage of all of our
Most
day
of the
that we
day.
every day that we talk about hunting of some sort of another. But Mike, hi Mike, if you're watching, came into the shop 2 days ago and made sort of like an Argentinian chorizo sausage that was lights out.
Yeah.
Like,
So
so
good.
good.
It was
So he
awesome.
just got the recipe off of the internet somewhere, and so I'm sure it's probably easy to find.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. So
Yeah.
do some of that.
I personally I have a recipe. It's just kind of a tomato with like a tomato paste and some spices, kind of Mexican spices and stuff that I'll just throw the steak in a Ziploc bag for a while and then throw it on the grill and slice it thin, and so good.
Yeah. I mean, there's no bad way
Yeah.
except for overcooking it.
Yeah. You don't want to overcook it.
Don't overcook it.
It is Tuesday, so Taco Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
feel free to make some tacos.
Yeah. You do that too.
Yep.
Jerky, burgers,
Yeah.
well, everything. It's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. So come on down, and you can
Yeah.
we can help you out get started. Or if you're somebody who has been hunting for a while and are looking to upgrade some things, we have, as the guys have said, lots of ways to upgrade
So
what
many
you've got.
A
toys.
lot of
So
toys.
many
Yeah.
things. Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and maybe we'll do round 2 with some upgrades, go a little deeper and not such an overview on all the basics. I certainly learned a lot. So come on in, talk to Alan. We got you geared up. Maybe we can put a gear list together of everything you went over, something like
Yeah,
that.
we
That'll
can
be
do that,
helpful. Cool. Well, thanks again, guys, for
Yeah,
joining.
thank you for having us.
Cocktails
Thanks, Claire.
were delicious.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We're still-
Go get some more
talking
sloshies
too
down
much.
south of town before it gets too chilly.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Happy September.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost.
Almost.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah,
That was
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Al.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Good to see you.
Yep.